her way up here, please. Thank you. All right, welcome to our Board of Education meeting. It is 7:02. This is April 1st, 2025. We're going to begin by indicating who's here. Clark, will you start?
Clark Nelson.
Karen Winder. Chris Wynn.
Connie Burgess.
Kim Chandler. Julie Jackson.
Todd Hopper.
Ben Orsley.
And Nicole McDermott. Thank you all for being here. We'd like to recognize first some of our guests that are here. Do we have any PTA? I know we have PTA. Go ahead and stand up and introduce yourself so everybody knows you. We know you. Thanks, Kimberly. GEA? Michelle Jones, GEA President. Haley Kelly, Board Member. Thanks for being here, you guys. Do we have any Granite Office professionals? I know we do. I saw some. All right.
I'm Kelly Elvison. I'm the Vice President.
Michelle Yavitry, Elementary West. Diane Gilmore, part-time faculty. Regina Lively, Treasurer. Amy Miller, Secretary. Amanda Pennington, High School Rep.
Thanks for being here, you guys. Middle managers? Not sure I saw any. We have any GASPA? Granite Education Foundation.
Danny Talbot, the Executive Director.
Christy Green, Administrative Assistant.
Thanks for being here. I apologize if I missed if there's elected officials here. Would you please stand and be recognized? Any elected officials? Okay. And then I know we have lots of administrators and principals here. Will you just stand and be recognized as well, if you're an administrator?
If you don't mind, we have one additional recognition. There is a former assistant superintendent. I saw, would he please stand and be recognized? Pretty sure he just swore at me.
All right, we're going to invite J.D. Talbot to come up and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please rise and repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You can please be seated.
And I'm going to invite Kelly Miller to come up and introduce the reverence for this evening.
All right, thank you. So we, at Kearns Junior, I was astounded when I got there at just how much representation of lots of different things we have all over in our building. We have through every single hallway, we've got pictures of teachers with their favorite quotes to help inspire students. We have lots of representation of awards that the school's won, and we do have some student art around the building. We've got a great mosaic as you walk in the building. There's a bench out front that students put together with stonework. It looked like it used to be the practice to either purchase or commission a piece of artwork from students to be hung outside of the auditorium. But as I looked around and I looked at all the student artwork, there were little names and dates on all of them, and the latest date, or the latest date I could find was 1993. Which doesn't feel like that long ago, but someone informed me that that was more than 30 years ago. So I decided it's time to get some fresh art up in the school. So I worked with our advanced art teacher, and she worked with all of her kids to put together a mural that's gonna go up in our gym. So I'll let her talk about the process of that.
Hello. So I'm Tiara Cook. I'm a visual arts teacher at Kearns Junior High. And when Kelly brought this idea to me, she kind of posed it as a contest at one point. And so then I was like, I love that idea, but I also want to have it be more of just an advanced art situation where each one gets to design something. So We talked about community, the difference between graffiti and a mural, how to sustain murals, as well as just what it would look like in our community as Kearns Junior High. And so we took a little field trip to the gym, figured out where it was gonna be, what was most important for us to have in the gym, and then they started out making their first little sketch. Their first sketch became into a second sketch after looking at each other's artwork and determining what was most important, what they wanted to add in their own artwork that was from somebody else's. And then they used AI tools to generate statements of what they wanted this mural to look like and develop reference photos that were exactly kind of the ideas that they had, and then made them into their own. After that, the third step was creating groups, deciding which groups or which students had similar ideas, and then putting them together, and then them collaborating and figuring out which is the most important out of their groups, what kind of elements, what kind of designs, what kind of community aspects they wanted to have. And then step 4, I'll get to after we play our cute little video. So then, after taking those 5 groups and them deciding they decided which mural design was the best one for their specific group, I gave those 5 mural designs to our admin, and they put together a team to decide on what values and what things they liked out of each 5 of those. And after that, they gave them back to me with their notes and created their mural design.
So with that, that's going to be turned into a big vinyl sticker that'll go across the gym, so that that'll last a little longer than other designs usually. So yeah.
You guys want to see it? Awesome. When does that go in?
So that'll go in this spring or early summer. So, yeah. So we don't have an official date yet. So, yeah.
Very cool.
Awesome. Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you so much. We're excited to see that. When that goes in, let us know, Kelly, and we'll come see it. We're going to go ahead and move on to our Good News Minute. And if we can go ahead and start with Clark.
Sure. I had the chance to attend a principals meeting in the Cottonwood Network last week and was impressed with kind of a similar approach that they take in their meeting in terms of providing some good news from each school. I just want to highlight two in particular from that meeting last week. One, at Wilson Elementary, the kindergartners who started with 5% proficiency in their letters and sounds are now at 89% year to date. Pretty impressive. And then second, Bonneville Junior High had its junior high musical last weekend, which was High School Musical Junior, and I have not stopped humming all of the songs ever since. It was tremendous, and a special thanks to Carrie Peterson, Amanda Johnson, and Becca Sovaras, who really put on an incredible show. So thank you to them.
Speaking of Kearns Junior that just gave that lovely presentation, it was my honor to be able to go with the foundation and honor our Teacher of the Year, who happens to teach at Kearns Junior High. And it's always exciting to celebrate teachers, but when it's one of your precinct schools, you just celebrate a little bit more. So that was fun to surprise her, and the kids were super excited on stage. It was a huge assembly, and it went really well. That was fun. Congrats to Granger's unified basketball team taking state. So I'm super proud of them. Had the opportunity to what Tyler Howe calls the best day of the year, which is his birthday. Happened to stop in, and he always orders cake, or supplies cake for every student. So that's always fun to see that in motion. I had the opportunity to go to Kennedy's Steam Night. This happened to be that Thursday a couple weeks ago that we had snow, and they had fireworks planned, and they still did fireworks. It's great. It was fireworks in the snow, and as long as the wind isn't, I learned this, as long as the wind isn't too powerful, you can do fireworks in the snow. So there you go. But they had slime, they had all the sciences. They were going through and letting kids pop popcorn, explaining the reaction of when the popcorn kernel heats. There was just a lot of fun there that night. But the fireworks definitely stole the show in the snow. And last but not least, had the opportunity to celebrate the National History Day. And two of our high schools that really do a really good job with this and encourage our kids to participate in it are Granger and Skyline. And a lot of winners are moving on to the next level from those two schools. So congrats to all those guys for their extra work.
I was also attended the Kennedy STEM night. It was really fun. I didn't stay for the fireworks because I did not want to drive home in the blizzard. So I went at the first, and it was really fun. And I want to thank those efforts put on at Kennedy. It was fantastic, and I think it was fun because I hadn't been in Kennedy very much. It's not one of my schools, but I was appreciative to go and see something different because all of our schools do things a little bit different, and it's really nice to see all the good work that goes into every school that we have. I've attended a district community council meeting it was a great discussion there, and Brockbank Junior High they're starting their community council, and they're getting some real excitement going there. Starting a new school is very, very tough because you don't really have a lot to draw on yet. You're barely hiring a staff. You don't really have a lot to go by. And so I really appreciate Tim Clark and the efforts being made there to get a staff on board. They've got some fantastic teachers going to Brockbank Junior. And it was really exciting. And then some great parents that are on their community council now who are starting to form some really good initiatives that's going to happen at Brockbank, and I'm really excited. I want to thank Hunter High School. I went to their community council meeting, and right after they had their PTA meeting, which was really nice, so I could stay for both. And they had a great discussion, and I just want to thank the parents that take the time to really be involved in their school, not just at a surface level, but they really want to take care of our teachers. They want to take care of the students and support. Their efforts are just remarkable. So thank you, Hunter High School.
Thanks. I also was able to go up to the Delta Center, and what an opportunity our unified sports people had of being at the Delta Center and playing basketball. we had 5 teams from Granite Go, Cypress, Granger, Taylorsville, Kearns, and Hunter, and most of them won. So it was just such a joy to be there and see the interaction, and the crowd was so good to clap and cheer for these special students. So I really enjoyed that. I also enjoyed the wrestling for the junior high. They had their division finals last Saturday, and it helped to have a couple of grandkids there. But it was just so organized, and the kids all participated. I think there was maybe one student that left early, so she couldn't wrestle. Well, it was probably the quarterfinals, but the kids were all there, and it was such a joy to see parents and kids. That's all.
I want to focus my highlight this month on its playtime. By playtime, I mean musical time. A lot of musicals and plays going on in our schools right now. I've been able to catch a couple of them. One of them had to cancel one of the nights I was able to make, so I couldn't get to that one. I have another one coming tomorrow. Can't make them all, but just want to recognize the effort that's gone into these plays and the excitement of the students being able to show off all of their hard work for the last several months. And their acting and singing shops. We really do have some talent in our district. Really impressed by some of the singing and the acting that they do. So just wanted to say well done to all involved, and thank you for the good work.
One of the things about being on school board is that I found that was unexpected is that when you serve your community, you come to love them more. And my community is just beginning the PAC study, and I've had so many great opportunities to meet incredible people who are so intelligent and so dedicated to our community and our kids. And it's just been really inspiring to see. And again, just that my love for my community grows and grows, even when we're all a pain in the butt, like I love us. And so I just wanted to highlight and send appreciation to those who are working really hard on that, because it's a lot of people. I also wanted to say that a couple of highlights for me this month were when I got to go to Crestview, and there was a student there who was a school board member in the Wax Museum. And so she interviewed me, and it was the most professional interview. I almost was nervous because she was so professional with me, and I was so impressed with her. And she's a great example of how amazing our students are. I also wanted to say that I had this spectacular conversation with a group of about 30 students at Skyline the other day about Chromebooks, and cannot stop thinking about the feedback that I got from them and their perspective. And I just think that students have a perspective that nobody else has, and I love being able to talk with them.
Thanks, Julie. I too have been able to go visit a couple schools and see their shows. Benyon is doing Little Mermaid Junior, and I'm missing it tonight to be here. So I did get to go also see Taylorsville High School, and they did Wait Until Dark, which was incredibly creepy, but very well done. And just want to give a shout out to all the teachers. It's performing time. They've all been doing competitions, the music groups and the performing groups. I know our drill teams have all been doing a lot of their end of year performances as well. And I did want to highlight also Jefferson Junior. I was able to go visit their Pi Day, and it was so much fun to see the effort that they put into that. It was incredible. Huge thanks to Walmart. They donated those little teeny pies to all of the students, so they had one for all of the students. And it was so cool. And also highlight there was that Coach Ron McBride was there. So got to see him, and he was just chatting with the kids and talking about, success and what goes into that, and just saw the superintendent coloring a pie city, and saw a former superintendent come and also do that too. So anyway, it was really fun to be able to see that, but just, man, the work that went into that from that, I know the one teacher kind of coordinated everything, but man, so incredible, so much fun. The decorations, they decorated, everybody was color coordinated. So a lot of work that went into that and a great job with that, and so it was really fun to see. So that's my minute, and we're gonna go ahead and move on. We would like to invite J.D. Talbot to come up. He is going to present our Excel Award winners for our recognition, our first recognition.
All right, good evening, board and superintendent and members of the superintendency. As you know, we have countless amazing educators here in Granite, and each year at the foundation, we get to honor 10 of these, 9 teachers and 1 administrator with an Excel Award. So it's my pleasure to be here tonight to introduce to you this year's winners, the 2024-2025 Excel Award winners. I will read their names, and as they're here, if you'll come up, shake board members' hands, and then wait up here for the picture. It would be great if we could hold the applause to the end. But we have Anna Alamo from Cottonwood Elementary, Megan Allen from Kearns High School, and our admin winner this year was Jennifer Christensen from Olympus High. We have Chantel Esquivius from Olympus High, Jennifer Johnson from Hunter Junior High, Anna Kendall from Bonneville Junior High, Stephanie Nykamp from Upland Terrace Elementary, Ray Pattison from Kearns Junior High, Shelley Rush from Whittier Elementary, and Carolyn Wetzel from Oak Ridge Elementary. Let's give all of these educators a huge round of applause.
Congratulations. You're awesome.
As we take a few minutes to instruct adults on how to get their picture taken, I'm gonna tell you a little bit about the process to become an Excel winner. So each year we accept nominations. Nominations can come from anyone, so students, peers, members of the community could nominate teachers to win an Excel Award. After the nomination process, teachers do have to fill out an application, and then those that score highest on the application then move on to the observation round. So it's quite a thing for all of these teachers to go through to get this award, but let's give them one more round of applause.
All right, and then Anne is coming up. There she is. Come on up, Anne.
All right, well, I'm here tonight to help celebrate an extension of the Excel Award winners. I'm wondering if we can have Ray Pattison come on up. Let me tell you a little bit about Ray Pattison as she stands here with me for a second. Ray is an incredible educator. She's an EE teacher at Kearns Junior High, whose dedication and innovation has made a lasting impact. She goes beyond teaching, she advocates, inspires, and ensures that every student has the opportunity to succeed. Through her community-based instruction, she brings learning to life, helping students develop both academic and real-world skills. She has built partnerships and broken barriers to make the world more accessible for her students. Her work with the Kearns Coffee Cart is legendary and is more than just a school project. It's a model of inclusion and empowerment, giving students meaningful opportunities to grow and contribute. Ray believes in her students before the world does, and because of that, they thrive. She changes lives, proving that the right opportunities, every student can succeed. So please help me in celebrating Ray Pattison as our Granite School District Teacher of the Year. want me to?
Yeah, Kelly? Okay. While they're taking their picture, I will say that when you visit Kearns Junior and you see her kids, they absolutely adore her, and you can tell she adores them. There is such a connection between her and her kiddos. It is just a sight to behold.
All right, thanks so much. And thanks once again to the foundation for all that you guys do for our teachers and for us. Okay. We are going to move on to our patron participation time. We don't have any elected officials unless somebody came in that I don't know about. Okay. We do have 2 people signed up for citizen participation. We have Dr. Zachary Book, an Oak Ridge parent, and Dr. Nathaniel Eschler, who's talking about Beverly Taylor Sorensen. So Dr. Book, if you would come up, and please, just for the record, state your name, and you've got 3 minutes to address the board.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep, talk
Pleasure
right
to meet
into
everybody.
it.
So I'm Dr. Zachary Book. I'm a board-certified emergency physician, and I also hold a degree in psychology from the University of Utah with an emphasis in early childhood education. I'm here as a passionate advocate for Oak Ridge Elementary School. So thank you for allowing me the opportunity to share my viewpoints and some information from a study that we conducted from our local neighborhood survey, which included over 120 families responding, which I think would be valuable information for you all to consider. Oak Ridge is not just a school. It's a historic mid-century modern architectural gem, in my opinion. I'm a product of that school. I went there in the 80s. Many families that I know have brought their families back to go back to the school. And I think there's a lot of intangibles that aren't expressed in various numbers that you all may be seeing. And certainly, I love data and valid numbers, but the overwhelming majority of the people that we have surveyed don't want any school closures in our neighborhood and have a wide variety of reasons against that. So I think Oak Ridge's design reflects a thoughtful education space and offers students an inspiring environment to learn and grow, I should say. So if you haven't been there, the school has $1 million view, which is inspiring to all that learn there. It inspired me when I was gazing out across the valley, thinking about what I could be in life and where I could go, which I think is very unlike in other schools in the district, and certainly a unique aspect that needs to be saved in our area. I'd hate to have other unfortunate events such as Fortuna Elementary School, which I was actually going to as a child, as a preschooler, turn into a developmental area and signed over to real estate developers. And I think that would be an extreme tragedy to have that happen to a site like Oak Ridge Elementary School. Forgive me. So I think studies have shown that well-designed environments positively impact students' well-being and academic performance. I think various board members and their past comments have always agreed with those comments, that there is a value to the type of learning environment that you are in. And I can just tell you from personal experience that Oak Ridge was one of the most amazing places that I've ever personally learned in. Going out onto that playground and looking at Mount Olympus is inspiring every day. I think it would be a tragedy to lose that environment for future students. And I feel very strongly about that I personally moved back after 15 years of absence when I had my family to this neighborhood to have my children, my twin daughters who are soon to be 8, and my 10-year-old son who go to Oak Ridge, experience that same process. And I know there's a lot of families from our survey, I think overwhelmingly 85% of them chose this school in order to have that type of learning environment for their children. So I would also like to maybe mention a few talking points about seismic stability. I think Oak Ridge is above the Wasatch Fault Line, which is unlike the majority of the schools in Granite School District. which provides a very unique element of safety from a seismic perspective. I think those studies are very well known that that area is less prone to damage. To my knowledge, that Oak Ridge isn't in the state registry for unreinforced masonry, unlike other schools that may be in Granite School District that may be on a pathway more for repair. I know that you have had various bond measures that have been passed to rebuild schools, and certainly those are valid. And I know Oak Ridge was up for rebuild at some point in time. Personally, I feel that your money could be spent otherwise in saving a very valid school and saving money for yourself, in adopting your own recommended policies from various procedures that I've seen from you of, I believe, a third-tier plan of having 2 renovations per school over time, as opposed to just instantaneously rebuilding once a certain life cycle of a building has been made. I'd be open for, other data that would say that might be more economically viable. However, I think Oak Ridge is a very unique building that should be saved historically for its architectural value. So I think Oak Ridge has a long lasting legacy of excellence. It's been historically producing excellent individuals. I can tell you myself as a product, but I can name a number of other physicians that have come out of that school. I think it's a leader for the community of how to act, and just from a common sense standpoint, it doesn't make any sense to me to close a school that is leading the state academically out of elementary schools, certainly in the top 5, if not the top 10. I think the statistics vary of where it lies, but certainly it's a vanguard of educational excellence in how people can perform. And I can only wish that that could be duplicated in other environments. I was a product of a split class model. I've heard those arguments been made that there's small class sizes. I could tell you that that gave me an opportunity to peer teach, peer learn from others. And I think there's talking points on both sides of any statements that could be made from different resources about what is best value to graduate kids in the end out of high school. So I think that there are some talking points that have been presented as generalities that apply to everyone. However, I think that there are amazing things that are going on a dirt floor in the middle of Africa with a computer. And those kids are learning with very limited resources. And I think we have exponentially more resources at this point in time compared to many, many other countries and different learning environments. And I would differ in opinion that there needs to be different student-teacher ratios in terms of providing the best quality education to graduate kids from high school, which I believe is Granite School Board District main mission. I think there is some generalizations about declining enrollment that shouldn't be applied to Oak Ridge Elementary. I don't know if you're aware, but Morningside has several programs, including dual language immersion, GT program, as well as a regular class schedule. I've talked to that school, gotten those numbers, and I can tell you as a parent and from our survey that many parents have been wooed to that school through marketing and sort of an attitude of my child should be at the best school, quote unquote, and this is the best, and that has been labeled the best. I can tell you from historical means, that was the exact opposite from Oak Ridge Elementary, where kids were getting bused in from Sandy all the time, and there was a caveat of local buses when I was a kid coming for GT programs at Oak Ridge Elementary School, and those programs have subsequently been transferred to other places. I would give you the proposition that there's alternative solutions by simply redistributing students back to Oak Ridge Elementary that have been drawn off. And this is coming from, I believe, the Granite School Board District information from their own website. And forgive me the name of the files, but it's on your websites about what percentage of children are coming from, to and from which school districts and where they're going to school now. And I think it's called a pivot table from my recollection, if you haven't seen them. But the numbers don't lie. a very significant portion of people that live in Oak Ridge territory, I should say, are being drawn to Morningside and should be redistributed. There are some slight misleading public outreaches, I think. I'd like to clarify some facility condition index data, some maybe misleading slides that have been presented in the past. And I believe that you've all been presented various data tables in the past, but from my reading of these tables, it seems to be that the majority of the schools are in various 80 percentile condition ratings, and I'm not sure going from 86% to 85% makes a big difference in using that data as a valid measure to close any one specific school, as they are generally all in the same category of being older schools.
Dr. Book, we appreciate your comments and would love to continue this conversation, but we do need to move on with our meeting. So if you could wrap up your comments, we'd appreciate it.
Sure. So I'd like to just give some very simple statistics that our local survey over 120 families show 85% of the respondents indicate that Oak Ridge was a primary reason for purchasing their home. The majority of the students walk to school from that environment, and that would be broken by closing the school. And a staggering 99.2% of the surveyed respondents expressed their opposition to closing Oak Ridge Elementary. And I don't know if that type of data is being collected by yourselves, but I'd like to present that to PAC committee and yourselves for consideration that our community is very much against this type of closure. I would have lots of other data to present to you and lots of other valid opinions that I think you should consider in terms of making your future decision on school closures. Personally, I'm against school closures, west side, east side of the district, or any school closures, and I think the future of our education system relies on having resources and open environments, using artificial technology and other means to maximize efficiency and effectively learning, and having differentiation of children's education in order for them to succeed. And I think there's many ways to reconsider a plan that is being put in place in order to close schools. And I would just like to give, a huge shout out to my community for coming together and expressing, I think, their valid opinions that they're against this.
Thank you. Dr. Eschler? Once again, please state your name and for the record and 3 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Dr. Eschler, and this is
Carlin Salazar.
We're both BTS teachers here in Granite School District. This is a joint statement by another BTS arts teacher. She wasn't able to make it. We are teaching artists, and she's in the community performing tonight. So she's going to stand with me here today. Okay. If you were given a copy of this, I'm going to skip through to keep it in that timeline for you. So just try to follow along if you're reading along. Okay. All right. Good evening, President McDermott, members of the Granite Board of Education, and Superintendent Horsley. Thank you for your dedication to Granite students, to the students of Granite School District. As I said, my name is Nathaniel Eschler, and together with Caitlin Bramble, we put this together for you. We are both teachers in the Beverly Taylor Sorensen Arts Learning Program at Granite School District. We represent just 2 of the 27 teachers in this program, which also includes 4 visiting artists and instructional coaches. Collectively, BTS teachers serve approximately 26,732 students across 56 elementary schools in our district. We collaborate with roughly 1,000 academic teachers as well as special education, psychologists, and social workers. We are writing today to highlight the importance of the Beverly Taylor Sorensen Integrated Arts Learning Program to Granite School District. We aim this evening to remind the board and the school district that implementing high quality and authentic arts integration in K-5 learning is a valuable asset to our student education. Therefore, we also encourage the board to continue participating in the BTS program and to more closely consider investing to increase arts integration capacity long term. Due to the size of Granite School District, our current BTS implementation model and the needed resources to form a more robust arts integration program in our schools, We respectfully ask the Granite School District to consider supplementing existing BTS funding to better meet the grant requirements as outlined in the Beverly Taylor Sorensen Arts Learning Program Handbook. Research underscores the profound impact of arts integration learning on student achievement. According to Wang, Hartel, and Wahlberg, arts integration significantly enhances 4 key competencies: cognitive, metacognitive, motivational, and social-emotional. We would point out these competencies align with Granite School District's Graduate of Granite characteristics. In my 5 years in the district, I have witnessed firsthand the transformative power of arts integration. 2 examples are collaborating with homeroom teachers to write songs and raps about math targeting specific learning challenges aligned with core standards. I thought about bringing one of them and leading everyone in it tonight, but I only had 3 minutes. It takes a little longer than that. Adapting Bach chorale melodies with rewritten lyrics to teach science concepts at developmentally appropriate levels for each grade. My co-teacher or co-writer of this says, in my own planning, testing, refining, and implementing lessons in general music, my students and I have explored interdisciplinary connections to math, English language arts, social studies, STEM, sciences, and social emotional learning. She goes on to say, implementing arts integration that delivers on these benefits, however, takes substantial time to prepare, plan, and execute. Successful arts integration, after all, does not only occur in the classroom, arts classroom. On the contrary, true arts integration requires deep whole school and whole district commitment to the practice. We acknowledge that Granite continues to face the difficulties of new and constantly changing policies affecting public schools, and the Granite's current area for growth are tied to decades of underinvestment by the state legislature's Utah's public schools. However, we must better mobilize the limited resources we do have and commit to working smarter, not harder. End quote. Arts integration is not an add-on. It is a well-established pedagogical approach. The Utah Fine Arts Core Standards explicitly highlight the role of arts in enhancing understanding of other content area via standards in the connecting strands. However, the current structure of the BTS program in Granite School District presents significant challenges to implementing this pedagogy successfully. BTS teachers are expected to teach 5 to 7 classes per day across 6 grade levels, travel between 2 or even 3 different schools, operate with only 1 guaranteed 45-minute planning time per week, and integrate Utah Fine Arts standards with core academic subjects, math, science, language, arts, and social studies, while ensuring meaningful collaboration with homeroom teachers. To support Granite's focus on Tier 1 instruction and to more closely align with the conditions of the BTS ALP grant funds and best practices in arts integration, we urge the board to increase funding to support the BTS program. Education research affirms this. And again, we sincerely ask the board to continue investing in arts integrated education, not to just align with the state requirements, but to give our students the best possible foundation for success through providing high-quality Tier 1 instruction across the elementary curriculum. Thank you for your time and consideration.
All right, thank you so much for those who addressed us. We are going to move on to our consent items. We've had these for a few days to be able to look over. If there are no questions, I will entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Is there any further discussion on this?
I just will quickly add a comment that the consent agenda contains the expense for the ELA curriculum that the board approved last month, just in alignment with my vote last month. Against that curriculum, I'm also not voting to support the funding that goes along with it. So,
okay, thank you, Kim. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And opposed?
Nay.
All right, motion carries. That takes us to our other action items. We have first our administrative appointments and transfers. Again, this is something that we've had for a few days and been able to look over and ask any questions. If there are no further questions, I will entertain a motion for that as well.
I move that we approve all the admin appointments and transfers.
Second.
A motion and a second to approve the administrative appointments and transfers. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
I forgot. Sorry. Do you have any comments? Okay. Any opposed? All right. With that, much anticipated, we're going to invite several people up to introduce some of our new appointments and transfers. So first, we're going to ask Jared Reynolds to come up. How are you, Jared?
Good evening, President McDermott and members of the Granite District Board. I am here to recognize a replacement for our Director of Granite Peaks Adult Education. Dave Vanavie has been the director for several years and is retiring at the end of this school year. And I'm going to present Johnny Matich. Jonathan Matich goes by Johnny. Johnny began teaching in 2005 and taught primarily high school language arts, along with coaching track and field, basketball, and football, including being head football coach at Taylorsville and Granger High School, before finding his passion for alternative education as a teacher for several years at Granite Connection High School, a former school I was at. I love Granite Connection. For the past 5 years, Johnny has shown his leadership abilities and focus on student learning as an outstanding assistant principal at both Olympus Junior High and Kearns High School. So I present to you Johnny as the new director of Granite Peaks Adult Education. Thank you.
All right, and Dr. Bryce Day, you're next. Just so you know, up on the queue next would be JD. You're after.
Sorry, apparently I had to sit all the way in the back. Chairman McDermott and members of the board, I'd like to introduce to you Tiff Iacona, who will be assuming our position of Associate Director of Elementary Special Education. She will be replacing Kyle Anderson, who was recently appointed in curriculum. She comes to us with 11 years of administrative experience, including serving as an administrator at Jordan Valley School, Glacier Hills Elementary School, and in a similar position in Canyons School District. Most recently, she's been our principal of our Granite Transition Services over at the Hilda B. Jones Center. So, thank you very much.
Good evening again. Mitch told me earlier today, if you talk in the microphone 3 times in one time, you automatically have to take the day off tomorrow. So I'll see you all on Thursday. But I'm super excited to be here tonight to welcome 2 new members of the Communication and Family Engagement teams here in Granite. The first one will be the new Marketing Associate Director, Miss Jen Bodell. We'll have Jen stand up. Jen has been in Granite for 28 years. 19 of those years she spent teaching 5th and 6th grades at Truman and Armstrong. She then moved on to be an instructional coach and intern assistant principal before her current assignment, which is she's been the principal of Whittier Elementary the last 4 years. So we're excited to welcome Jen to the Communication and Family Engagement team. And then our next one is the new Associate Director of the Parent Advocate position, Mr. Taylor Cater. Taylor is a Granite guy through and through. He was a Skyline High graduate, and then after he got his degree, he went and taught history at a boarding school in South Korea before those Skyline vibes brought him back here to Utah to be a teacher at Skyline. And then he became an intern assistant principal and an assistant principal before his current assignment as the principal at Howard R. Driggs. So, Taylor, welcome to the team. Thank you, board.
And then, I don't know if it's Wyatt or Brenda. Oh.
Good evening, thank you. I'm filling in for Patrick tonight. He's out of town. And so I have the honor of letting you guys know about Brittany Ambrose. Brittany has taught for 13 years in several districts in multiple states. She taught for 1 year in Granite before moving into administration. She served as an assistant principal, and for the past 5 years, she's served as the principal of Rosecrest Elementary. And now she's joining HR as the Associate Director over Retirement and Evaluation. And I didn't want to be outdone by the high schools, so I brought HR swag. There is such a thing. Thank you.
Tyler, you're jealous of that. Okay, and then Dr. Howe, come on up. Buckle up, you guys.
Buckle up is right. We got a lot. Good evening to the board and to the superintendency. I'm off the bench fill-in. John Welburn is excused. He's on a trip to Hawaii. And as we were coordinating, I said, I can fill in for you on that, John. You can take this and I'll take that job. It's a great privilege to get to be part of this, to get to be at this celebratory moment for individuals who have dedicated their lives to education and to be able to support and lift students and get to watch this important milestone. So it's just an honor to be a part of. I want to take a quick personal privilege if I could. This has been eye-opening for me at the amount of work and time that goes into making these arrangements for transfers and appointments. And it's pulled me out of my school a lot more than I ever dreamed this last week. And my assistant principals were amazing at holding down the fort. So I've got one here tonight and others that are surely watching this, and I thank you to them. I do want to go through a lot of names here, and I would like to, as I introduce each of these people, ask them to stand up. We'll give them a round of applause, and then we'll just give them a little explanation of who they are and where we have them appointed next. First, we want to recognize Kristen Logan, right out of the gate. Kristen has been a teacher and technology coach in Granite. She is currently an administrative intern at Magna Elementary, and Kristen will be the new principal at Fremont Elementary School. Congrats. Kristen, we're going to put you on the spot for a second. Do you have anyone you want to introduce with you?
Yes, I have my son Nate, my parents, my sister Allie, and her partner John. My youngest son is at home sick, so he's with my husband streaming, and all of my friends and family streaming.
They're all seeing you. Congratulations. I'd like to welcome back Allison Milne, if she could stand. Welcome back, Allison. Allison has been a principal at Monroe and Orchard Elementary School. She is currently an assistant principal in Canyon School District. She will be the new principal at Gorley Elementary School. Allison, do you want to introduce who's with you? Wonderful to have you. If we could recognize Katie Page. Katie, could you stand? Katie has been a teacher and an administrative intern in Granite. She has been an assistant principal at Academy Park Elementary and is currently the assistant principal at Redwood Elementary. Katie will be the new principal at Diamond Ridge Elementary School. Exciting. Katie, do you have anyone you'd like to introduce?
Yes, I have my husband Alex with me. My kids are here. One's in the hall.
That's a good place to be.
Yeah. My parents are here with me, and then also some friends as well.
Wonderful. Thanks for coming. Lee Basquin, can you stand? A round of applause for Lee. Lee has been a middle school and high school counselor. He's currently an administrative intern at Moss Elementary. Lee will be an assistant principal at Stansbury and Moss Elementary Schools. Lee, do you have people to introduce?
Yes. Daughters Skyla, Arabella, my other daughter, and my wife, Mara.
Congrats. Is Premature Authority here as well? I didn't think so. Just to go through the announcement, Prima has been a teacher in Granite School District and is currently an administrative intern at Lincoln Elementary. Prima will be the assistant principal at Walker Elementary School. I'm sorry she couldn't join us today, so congrats for Prima. Anna Pendleton, can you stand? Anna has been a dual language immersion teacher and a teacher specialist at Granite District. She is currently an administrative intern at Westlake Junior High School. Anna will be an assistant principal at Lake Ridge and Valley Crest Elementary Schools. Anna, you're way back there, so if you could belt it out, anyone you want to introduce? Thank you, Anna. Corey Pengley, can you stand? Corey has been an administrator in Michigan. He's currently a teacher at Elk Run Elementary. Corey will be an assistant principal at Copper Hills and Hillsdale Elementary Schools. Corey, you don't have anyone to introduce, correct? That's wonderful. Thanks, Lisa. Next, Megan Snodgrass. There she is. Megan has been a teacher in Granite District and is currently an administrative intern at Bacchus and Truman Elementary Schools. Megan will be the new assistant principal at Copper Hills and Hillsdale Elementary Schools. Megan, do you have anyone to introduce? Wonderful. Next, Nicole Woodmansee. There she is. Nicole has been a teacher in Granite District and is currently an administrative intern at Taylorsville and Penn Elementary Schools. Nicole will be the new assistant principal at Magna Elementary School. Anyone to introduce Nicole?
Yes, and my husband, my parents, my sister, my kids are all at home.
I also understand your husband guessed this correctly.
He sure did.
So he's the one to take to Vegas over spring break, everybody, right there. Thank you. Our next person is not here, Gabe Guadiana. Unfortunately, Gabe cannot join us. He's actually on a cruise in the Pacific, having a great time. He is currently, Gabe has been a teacher and a teacher special in Granite, but he is currently an assistant principal in Salt Lake District. Gabe will be the new principal at Whittier Elementary School. Can I ask Michelle Farmer to stand? There she is. Michelle has been a teacher and instructional coach in Granite District. She is currently an administrative intern at Pioneers and Silver Hills Elementaries. Michelle will be an assistant principal at Cottonwood High School. Michelle, do you have anyone to introduce?
No, I have family that lives out of town, so no
Wonderful.
one came, but I do have coworkers that came to support me, so Ember and Kelly were in onboarding. with
Thanks for
me,
being here.
And Anna was my most previous boss, so.
Wonderful. Could I ask Sarah LaFawn to stand, please? Sarah has been a math teacher in Jordan District. She's currently an administrative intern at Eisenhower Junior High School. Sarah will be the new assistant principal at Eisenhower Junior High School. Sarah, anyone to introduce?
No, it's my daughter's spring break, so she's out of town, so I'm here with my principal, Wes.
That's a good person to bring with you. Thanks, Wes. Alyssa Longstaff, can you please stand? Alyssa has taught in junior high and been an instructional coach in Granite School District. She is currently an administrative intern at Valley Junior High. Her loyalties are still to Westlake, of course. Alyssa will be the new assistant principal at Bonneville Junior High School. Alyssa, after you receive all these gifts, is there anyone you want to introduce?
I have my husband David here with me.
Congrats. Can I ask Travis Melhoff to stand? Travis has been a coach and teacher in Granite School District. He's currently an administrative intern at Benyon Junior High. Travis will be a new assistant principal at Jefferson Junior High School. Travis, do you have anyone to introduce? And that didn't work out? Boy, you're going to be in a good assistant. There you go. Can I ask Chris Telford to stand? Chris has been a math teacher in Granite District. He's currently an administrative intern at Kennedy Junior High. Chris will be the assistant principal at Hunter High School. Chris, do you have anyone to introduce?
I have my current admin team here with me, and my family, Ethan, Jonah, Alex, and my wife Shane.
Welcome. Can I ask Amy Hayter to stand? Wow. Amy has been a PBIS coach and MTS specialist in Granite School District. She is currently the assistant principal at Bonneville Junior High. Amy will be the new principal at Eisenhower Junior High School. Amy, clearly you don't have anybody here with you. We're going to move on. Do you have anyone to introduce, Amy? Wonderful. Thanks for cheering her on. Daniel Harnsberger, can you stand? Daniel has been a junior high assistant principal in Ogden District. Daniel is currently an assistant principal at Jefferson Junior High, and Daniel will be the new principal at Jefferson Junior High School. Daniel, do you have anyone to introduce?
My wife and kids are on spring break, so they're having a good time right now. And I brought my mom, she's the best.
Moms are the best.
Bring my mom, and then I've got my dad here, he's pretty cool too.
Congrats. Can I ask Chad Reinhardt to stand? Chad has been a teacher and an intern assistant in Granite School District. He has been an assistant principal at Hunter Junior High and is currently an amazing assistant principal at Granger High School. Chad will be the new principal at Matheson Junior High School. Chad, do you have people to introduce?
I'm here with my amazing wife,
And your principal, Tyler.
Daisy.
Thank you, Chad. Thank you. Congrats. Can I ask Justin Pitcher to stand? Justin has been an elementary principal and high school assistant principal in Kane School District, coincidentally at the school where my kids go and they love him. Due to Michael Douglas moving into an assessment director position in the district, Justin will be the new principal at Cottonwood High School. You've got some merchandise there. I expect you to wear that, sir. There you go. Go Colts. Justin, do you have anyone to introduce with you?
I do have my awesome wife, Ashley, my daughter, Macy, and my son, Caden. I have 2 other kids who are in college, and so they're just enjoying university life tonight, and yeah, so excited.
Good for them. Great to have you. Jared Wright, can I ask you to stand? Oh, that G's never looked so good. Jared has been a teacher, an elementary principal, and a high school principal in Salt Lake School District. Jared will be the new principal at the best high school in the district, Granger High School. I'm off the bench here. We're thrilled to have you. Jared, do you have anyone to introduce?
Yeah, my wife and 3 of our 5 kids are here. My wife, Colleen, and then our kids. They're also on spring break, and they're thrilled to be here today.
I bet. Thank you. Appreciate you. Can we have one more round of applause for all of these appointees and for what you've done? To the board and the superintendency, that's a lot of names, and thanks for letting us share them.
Thank you. Before we excuse you all, we wanted to, the people who were introduced before, we didn't have your families stand or you to stand and be recognized. So will you just please stand up and be recognized that you were here to support those people, so anybody who did not get to.
Thanks for coming.
Stand up. I was gonna have you stand up and then leave, so, no, just kidding. No, you are welcome to stay. We have a wonderful agenda, but you're also, if you want to. We have a wonderful We love you all, but we do still have a meeting to continue, so we're going to invite you to step out into the hall. Do you want to go close the doors? Thank you all for coming. We're going to continue on with our agenda.
Let's just start.
Okay, our next item that we have is we have our sex education materials, and we have Noelle Converse here. Thank you, Dr. Converse, for being here, and we're going to just review that.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Board President and Board and Superintendent Horsley. As you know, this is the second review of the sex ed materials, so I'm not going to review the first couple slides just because we've already done this in the first review. So if you have any questions at the end, we certainly can revisit those if that's something you're interested in doing. So I'll go ahead and skip through just the logistical slides that we have at the beginning. And I'll just bring to your attention what we did discuss in our first review last month, which was that 100% of the 9-member committee did recommend for approval the boys' maturation, the updated boys' maturation materials. And there were no dissenting committee comments. And then as far as the AP psychology text, there also was 100% agreement of the 8-member committee for approval and no dissenting comments. And then for the second text for AP psychology, it was 88% of the 9-member committee recommended, with one rejecting who had no comments. Kim, I think you had asked me that in the first session, and I went back and double checked. There weren't any comments. She just had a no next to her vote.
Thank you.
Just to summarize public comment, so as you know, there's a 30-day review period for public comment, and during that time, we had a total of 4 public comments. So just broadly, to summarize what those were, under the boys' maturation materials, there were 3 comments in full support of all of the reviewed sex ed materials. There was 1 comment that suggested that the maturation slide deck kind of ended abruptly, and just could they do something kind of nice at the end. So they did go back and just add a slide at the end of that, just to make it uplifting and kind of some closure to the slide deck. And then Finally, we did have 2 parent inquiries regarding girls' maturation material. I believe it's just thinking that, knowing that both there's boys and girls' maturation, these individuals were simply inquiring where they were, where are the girls' materials. And so we reached out to each of those parents and let them know there were no changes in those materials. So when there are no changes, we don't review those or bring those to board. In terms of the AP Psychology, there were 2 comments supporting adoption of both texts and no dissenting comments. And so if you have any questions regarding those materials.
I should have called you, but I didn't.
That's okay.
So is this AP Psych, is that something that the curriculum says they have to teach?
Correct. So in terms of the AP Psychology, let me just take you back to these 2 pieces.
Right.
So basically, the standards are actually written in a way. So it's really based on the standards. And so we can't change or augment AP standards because they really belong to College Board. And this is really college credit. And I think we mentioned in the first review as well, understanding that we do review the AP materials out of an abundance of caution because we want to make sure that we feel really comfortable with everything that's being taught, but they are an exempted group.
Are there any other questions? Okay, so this is a second and final reading for the sex education instructional materials. And I will entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the sex ed materials as described. Is that all right? For a second and final reading.
Thank you.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the sex education instructional materials for a second and final reading. Are there any comments?
I do have one. Sorry, I didn't know if you were also jumping in or not. Okay.
Wait, go ahead.
Yeah, so we were given a small piece of curriculum to review for AP. I think it is helpful, and you explained it. I'll say it again for those listening, that the board does not choose or approve AP curriculum. And we're having it up for a vote tonight simply because, you know, we're playing it safe, having this portion up for a vote, given the potential for it to be viewed as sex ed curriculum, correct? So, nevertheless, I'm concerned about the curriculum overall because of the standards that we have to use, which Connie briefly brought up, which we don't create or approve either, by the way. I realize that the board does not get to choose the curriculum, does not get to create those standards, but I did some digging into the national AP Psych standards that we are teaching to. This particular standard here, brought up in this vote, indicates that students must understand that deciding on a gender identity is a normal and typical part of adolescent identity formation. There are other questionable standards as well. Students being able to describe effects of privilege and prejudice and diversity of gender identity. To be clear, as I read it, the standards which are concerning show DEI in action. Again, I understand we don't get to choose this curriculum, but I do believe we get to choose which AP classes we will offer in the first place. And so I would encourage my fellow board members to take a look at reevaluating the AP courses we are offering to ensure that we are not running afoul of both state law and DEI-related federal executive orders. With regard to this specific vote, I am comfortable with the Myers curriculum, not so comfortable with the language in the AMSCO-Laura Brandt text, and combined with my overall concerns, even though this does nothing really but make a statement, because we don't have control over this specific curriculum, I will have to vote no. Thank you.
Thanks. Any other comments? Great. Those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, Dr. Converse.
Thank you very much.
The next 2 items that we have are information items, and just as way of explanation while Doug makes his way up, right? I asked for him to kind of just give some information. Number 1, because as a law and policy committee, we asked for this to be sent to our district community councils, and we didn't want you to be blindsided that this was going to come to your district community councils if you went. But number two, also just to give you a chance to weigh in on this as well, in the way that we could do that during a first reading, but we wanted to make sure you guys were aware and okay, or at least understand where your communities stand on these two things. So there are two significant changes to these two policies that Doug will go over, and would like just to have your feedback before we get to that, to the point of.
Thank you, President McDermott. So we had initially planned on doing as a first reading 3 policies tonight, but 2 of those we've discussed. Perhaps there's a little more discussion required before we bring those for a first reading. So the first one is district property access and safety. This is policy 4C2. Sorry, I'm just trying to get it.
Is that 6C2?
Sorry? 7C2.
Sorry.
I'm sorry, you're right. 7C2.
Just scroll all the way up.
Oh, okay, here we go. So this particular policy, it was a combination of 3 policies. And those policies had to do with the use of our school grounds. We redid essentially the entire policy, combining Article 7C2, grounds use. And you can see there, Article 7C3, safeguarding the use of school grounds after school hours. Combining those policies into one was fairly simple. However, there's a portion of that policy that we discussed at length in our law and policy meeting, and that has to do with dogs and other animals on district property. So if you look in F 1, 2, and 3, there's been significant discussion surrounding the issue of whether or not after hours dogs and other pets should be allowed onto school property. We crafted some language that would preclude dogs from being on school property based on the concerns that have been raised and the complaints that have been made regarding owners not picking up after their pets in particular. And so the idea is that we understand that that domestic animals, dogs, are a part of people's lives. People can definitely walk their dogs. However, what we would ask them to do is to leave their dogs, or more accurately, leave their student at the sidewalk, and they wouldn't bring their dogs onto campus. So that is essentially the position that law and policy has taken with respect to this particular issue. I know that there are a lot of very strong opinions about this particular issue in some of your communities. And so that's why we wanted to bring it here and allow you an opportunity to speak to it. I'm happy to insert any of my own thoughts or feelings, but otherwise I leave it to you board members to converse about specifically the direction that the board would like to take with respect to this particular issue.
So just to kind of cue it up, Julie was really a big one. I think her area, a lot of your schools, or several of your schools, have issues with kids that are going out during recess, coming in with dog poop on their shoes. The question was posed, what's that?
In their hair.
In their hair. Just different things like that. I don't know. The question was posed, are we seeing this all over the district? We did ask for that to be surveyed.
Yep.
And a lot of principals did say they do like that idea. We recognize that it's not feasible with every campus because we don't have completely enclosed areas, but what this does do is that if it is part of our policy, our municipalities then do have the ability to be able to ticket people when they do see them with dogs on there. So just kind of the question that we had, are you hearing this from your schools? Is this are your communities going to be upset that they don't have access, or that if access is cut off for them because of the abuse of the property? What are your thoughts? What's going on in your areas?
Sorry, I might mention just one last thing, that the feedback we've been getting from principals is fairly consistent, that those that have spoken up prefer that we disallow dogs on school property altogether.
Julie, in your area, haven't there been a couple of instances where the gates have been locked for 30-day periods? And what was the impact or result of such actions?
Positive, and neighbors upset at first, and then finding out what was going on, and then supporting but wishing it was otherwise, you know? And I will say that my area, I think, will be upset about this policy because they want to take their dogs on the property. But the reality is that it's starting to interrupt instruction in not just one or two of my buildings. I would say that when I go to community council meetings, this is like very often a discussion, very often. And so I would say almost every single one of my buildings is experiencing this. And part of that is because in my area, there's not a lot of open space, so the schools are the parks. We have just a couple of parks, but dog's not allowed off leash there either. So, and I have had patrons talk to me also about things like, now that this is like in the works, yeah, my daughter's allergic to dogs, and this is a huge problem at pickup and drop off. And then other people chiming in, my daughter too, my kids also, or kids feeling unsafe because there are dogs there that are off leash, and we're not able to ticket them or really enforce the law. But this would allow us to enforce it.
So that's my next question, is what's the practical enforcement look like? So at some of our schools, we can lock gates. At others, we cannot. Either way, what is the practical enforcement? Are we really going to see it? Are we going to start seeing citations? I mean, if we're going to create the policy, I hope that it has teeth, is what I'm saying. Otherwise, it's a bunch of hand-waving.
We've had some conversations preliminarily with some of our city partners, and I think the concept is if they know that schools are banned on school schools are banned on school property. Dogs are banned on school property, that if they saw that instance, they could then go take and make a citation. So the way that it's set up right now, you're in a situation where they have to demonstrate that they're not allowed on school property at that particular time. And usually when we're getting those types of reports from principals, the people have left by the time the police are able to arrive. So this is really more of a matter of convenience, and they're driving by the property and see that a dog is there.
And is this at all times of the day or just during?
The suggestion is it would be all times.
All times, weekends included.
Correct.
Yeah.
The idea being that it really is the problem with the waste that's being not being cleaned up. And I would say to Superintendent Horsley's point that right now we do have law enforcement who stop by schools on a regular on a regular cadence, and they're always looking for criminal conduct, but they have shied away from doing anything with respect to the dogs because we don't have a hard and fast rule that prohibits it. So if we're willing to provide a hard and fast rule for them, then they will help us enforce it.
This is just an unfortunate policy we have to come up with, because just like a lot of rules out there, it's only because a few people don't do what they should and pick up after their pets. And if this weren't a problem, we wouldn't have to do a policy. on this. Unfortunately, though, it's our reality, and I have to put kids first. And I don't want kindergartner, well, any grade, but I can just imagine kindergartners out there not looking where they're stepping, and now they're supposed to learn, and then everyone else in that class is like, ooh, where's that smell? It just is nasty. So it makes me sad that we can't just open up, you know, and have these open community spaces. That's what we like our schools to be. But on this one, unfortunately, some people haven't followed the rules, and just even the common courtesy of owning a pet includes cleaning up after them. But because that's not happening, I think we have to put kids first.
I do wonder this, if you guys feel like you want to go out and ask your community councils to weigh in on it or something like that before we vote. That's kind of what we had discussed, I think. Weren't we saying that? Oh, okay.
We have a survey that's going to go out, right?
Yes, we do.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So this isn't a voting item.
No, this
No,
isn't.
it's not.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
And then,
so I
Julie,
want to make that clear.
I think Trinda put it on the community council, or the district community council. So I think that will get some good, we can encourage our patrons to come there, you know, our community council, somebody, a rep from each school would be great. Then they could have some really good input on that too. So I think it's for next time.
Yeah. Okay. If there's no other thoughts, we're going to go ahead and move on to the next item, which is Article 8A24, electronic devices. Again, this was just one that we have a new section in. This is, as we passed this policy last year, this is coming back up on our year anniversary, and I know we all asked, we'd like to review this and see how it's going. So this is part of that, but there's also a new part of it that law and policy we asked to be put in. And so we wanted your feedback on this as well.
Yeah, and let's see if I can tee this one up a little bit. So the conversation in law and policy, once again, our board handbook says that we don't modify a policy within a year of it passing the last time, unless there are certain circumstances that require it. So we don't have any real pressing need to work with this policy really until June. However, there was a conversation that came up in law and policy that our law and policy committee wanted the board to weigh in on as a whole, and that had to do with screen time in general. This idea that screen time is perhaps being used as a means to not necessarily instruct, but to pass the time in schools and in some classrooms. Now, without sounding disparaging, I don't have any particular data to back that up. It's the incidents that we've discussed are all anecdotal in nature, but the idea being that kids don't necessarily need to be on screens throughout the whole day, including throughout the entire school day. And so we should limit screen time if we can in schools. I pointed out to the Law and Policy Committee, and I think this is where kind of the discussion got a little bit more traction, and that is that this really would be kind of an about-face of, past philosophy of the district, of the board, as we move toward one-to-one Chromebooks for every student, students taking those Chromebooks home, essentially being tethered to it so that they would have the ability to be able to use them and have access to Canvas and their schoolwork at any time. This was also an issue, you recall past conversations about this, an issue of equity where some families have more access to technology than other families. And so by us providing a one-to-one device, it allowed families without that luxury a little bit more of an equal playing field. These are the conversations that occurred in the past. Connie, I see you smiling, and some of you recall some of these conversations that we've had. And so prior to us making any real changes to the policy, we really wanted a discussion to come before the board and again to go to community councils, and we'll be following through with those conversations in community councils as well. But if I can point you to C5, 6, and 7 in that policy, this is the portion of the policy where we tried to craft some language that would kind of capture at least law and policy's position at this point, or best thinking at this point. But again, it would be a change in direction somewhat from where we've been in the past, and we wanted to have the board, or we wanted to give the board an opportunity to kind of discuss that issue and that change in philosophy, if that is indeed the direction the board wants to go.
I think it's good. I think sometimes when we're not prepared, and if teachers aren't prepared on a certain day, I think it's much easier to just say, open your Chromebook, and they can give direction partially, and then the kids can spend way too much time. So I liked what you had written.
I'll just chime in a little bit. I can appreciate adding this in. I think there was a time and place where we needed Chromebooks, and now we're kind of flipping from that because of we have face-to-face instructional time, and we have, I think this is needed now more than ever, because we have some maybe habits that we're kind of what Connie was saying. We kind of fell back on some habits of using that Chromebook for more instruction than necessary now. But at the time, I think it was in response to what we had to do to provide education for kids. And now we're back to hopefully more normal times where we can now step away from that. And this is a great addition to the policy.
Just add a comment. The law and policy team already has heard this, but just throwing it out for everyone else as well. I mean, I advocate moving away from our one-to-one Chromebook model. I would prefer we didn't use Chromebooks at all. I don't think screen time enhances learning. That conversation, like Doug said, is ongoing. So hoping to have continued conversations on that topic. Not.
Sorry, are you saying no Chromebooks all levels to high school? Just one.
I think that would be ideal. Yeah, but especially for the elementary kids. Anyway, but just want to keep those conversations going. I know that's not exactly what we're talking about in this policy yet today, but just wanted to throw that out for everybody. Thanks.
I'll just add my comment to that. I appreciate the need for some balance, and like many things in the world and in education, balance is critical. I don't think that doing away with Chromebooks altogether is the right balance. We live in a world with technology that's a big part of the world and of our lives, and hopefully for the most part in a good way. And there are many aspects of technology that our students deserve our attention and our oversight, that we embrace technology in all the right ways possible.
Karen, did you have any thoughts?
Okay. I do. Can I? Go ahead. I just, a couple things. So while I think this isn't necessarily a change in policy, what we've written up here, because we've always just said in procedure, yes, we use computers for when it's best practices. We've never prescribed it like this. And this, to me, the change to teachers is you don't use playing on your Chromebook for a reward, and also you don't use it for indoor recess. I think that this policy does not support those two practices, so I would say that we need to make sure our teachers are aware of that. Because while this is a very general policy, would you guys agree with me that that's what this says? Like that you use it for indoor recess, and now that breaks this policy? I'm asking if it breaks the policy as written. What do you think?
Where it says limited, I don't think it says not. I mean, limited during school hours.
I think that's
So
something
there's some limits
that can
in
be
that,
put into
but,
a an administrative memo that's, our best practice is to use these only for administrative.
I think this gives a lot of discretion. I think it allows a lot of discretion. If you wanted to tighten it down further, I think we could do that. But I do think that it focuses on the concept of technology being used for instruction and not for passing the time.
I don't think that I'm in favor of making this tighter without feedback from teachers.
Sure.
But that's the direction I would like to head in, is, hey, this is where we want to head. What are the unintended consequences? And talk to us. Let's talk about this. And I think that we're talking about going out and getting a lot of feedback from all of our patrons, our parents and our teachers about intentionality, and to me, what I would hope would be a tighter plan, even if it's a memo and a procedure rather than a policy about Chromebooks. But I would like this to be part of the conversation myself. The other thing I wanted to talk about is that I just went to my class at Skyline and asked them, okay, talk to me about Chromebooks. And my 3 takeaways from that class of about 30 seniors is, the first thing is that I said, a lot of parents are really concerned about accessing pornography. Talk to me about that. And they were like, oh, fat chance with Bark? No way. If anybody does anything, you get called down to the office immediately. They know. There's no way that they were so, I couldn't believe how much they were like, no, that's not happening. Who's saying that? Fascinating. Second was that this was on a different day when I said, what do you think is the major reason that we have an attendance problem? And they said, because everything's on Canvas, so we can miss school easy and still keep our grades up, which I think is something we should consider as we look at this technology policy in the next year, as we go consider what we're going to do next year about this, right? And then the third thing that they said was there should be absolutely no Chromebooks at the elementary level. Kids should learn to type, and that's all they should do. And I was fascinated that these high school seniors were feeling this way, knowing that in only a handful of years, they are the parents of my kindergartners, right? This is their attitude, and they were pretty unanimous about it. Also, in a part of town where it's a little more liberal-minded, and they were feeling this way, right? So I thought that was a really fascinating perspective that I wanted to share here. And then they also had kind of a rollout of how you would little by little bring the Chromebook in. It was very interesting to chat about it. But so I think it's important for us to listen to these students who have had their Chromebook and who have experienced it, because they know it on a level that we don't. So I don't want to skip out on the student voice as we get feedback about this.
That's all I was going to say. I was like, maybe we could do a student survey, at least at the secondary level, as part of our further research and analysis of the policy changes on this. I think we have seen success in a few places. I know just my own experience. My kids do their starter in their class, and then I say, put the Chromebooks away, right? And then the really only other time they need them is when I tell them to pull out the Googler and look up something, because there's a fascinating historical fact I want them to get some, to curiosity, use their curiosity to find out something interesting. But I think we're moving in the right direction with this, but the whole purpose of bringing this as an information item was so that we could gauge what type of survey and feedback that we'd like to get from not just the community, but I like the idea of taking that out to our students a little bit further.
As well. Mm-hmm. That's good.
And our teachers, which is part of the community.
And if I may provide a counterpoint as well, I mean, there are teachers out there who use technology. They've integrated it into their classrooms. You're going to find some resistance from those teachers. They've worked very, very hard to learn how to integrate, really in everything they do, the Chromebooks. And I've seen some of those classes where they've been highly effective in doing so, particularly with English language learners and some other, situations where the Chromebook, where the technology can be used as an enhancement to learning. And so I would say at this point, I will take this feedback that we've received tonight from the board. We'll try to put together the surveys that will go out to community councils, district community council, and perhaps to even some students and teachers. We'll figure out how to do that. But I think these are philosophical issues, right? These are broad philosophical issues that the board needs to grapple with in order to kind of give us direction moving forward as to how we see this really the principal reason that we're here, and that is instructing kids. So,
can I just add Julie's comment about the seniors, and then Clark's comments about balance made me think, all these variables don't just happen in a vacuum. They happen intertwined. And one of the variables that we're not considering, but we need to in this is, yes, like Chris said, we push teachers like crazy to get really good at putting stuff on Canvas. And then we, at the same time, said, PBL, you got to help kids to pass the class, and attendance doesn't matter. Except that attendance matters and learning happens with the teacher, right? And there's balance. There has to be a way to balance all of that. I think the PBL just needs to be considered as a component of the issue at hand.
I wanted to just make sure to add to the conversation as we all are thinking about this, the problem with the textbook as well, that textbooks are now moving online. It's hard to find the printed copy. If they have a printed copy, it's kind of not as awesome anymore. We would have to, as the state of Utah, build the market demand for a printed book, right? Which would take time. I mean, so this is also a part of the conversation, I think.
I don't think what's written is, if teachers are prepared and they use electronics for the purpose of teaching, I don't think it affects that. It affects it when you're not prepared and you just say students get on the, which, yeah, that's the easy way out for all of us, grandparents and parents and everybody.
But I do think that I like getting something written here. I volunteered in classrooms before, and even knowing I'm coming, because sometimes teachers are a little intimidated when school board members walk in the classroom. But there's been a handful of times where I left a classroom and I thought, that's interesting. The teacher's over here working with 3-4 elementary kids, and the rest of the class is just on their Chromebook. And as I walk around, they're playing games, which might be, tie this spelling to this or whatever, but is that the best use? Is that how they're really going to learn? Probably not. And so I like that we have something that maybe suggests, what that model looks like as the teacher pulls out small groups. I'm not sure, but that's always stuck with me as I kind of have left a handful of classrooms like, oh, they're kind of babysitting themselves on the Chromebooks. And I think that's what we're trying to avoid here.
And it wasn't very long ago that those kinds of learning programs were going to be the silver bullet in education, right? Yeah.
But ultimately, if we want teachers to be able to follow through with this with fidelity, we have to give them the supports they need, which is such a struggle for us. We try to give supports, but we're limited. And so, that's where you see that is, well, I got this kid and I just got to teach them this one thing. You guys, 10 minutes, you're playing a game while I teach 4 times tables to this kid, So I see the teacher's dilemma.
Me too. And this particular time was more like a half hour, and that's what got me. I was like, okay, if it's 5-10 minutes, okay, I can digest that. But I was in there for a half hour and walking around, and I was trying to make good use, right? I would sit down next to a kid. What are you learning? What's on? Show me what you're learning right now. And then they would flip screens. And then they would show me something, but it wasn't until I sat next to them that they would flip to a screen that had something of, not really of value, that's a little harsh, but maybe something more exciting to share.
and I've had this conversation, I had this conversation with Rich when he was still here, and I said, you know, we have to have the value proposition of having a live teacher. What's the use if the kids are going and, well, you know, it doesn't matter because I just pull out my Chromebook and I work on my Chromebook the whole time, then they don't want to go to class. They don't need to go to school. And that's the whole point, is that we have a value proposition of having a live teacher. The teacher is there to help them. They can give instruction. It's something that's different than they can get online and learn anything that they want. That's not the value proposition that we offer as a school district, and so we have to keep that in mind, and that's what this is aimed for. I understand what Clark is saying, and I absolutely agree. There is a balance, because I can think, you know, I have a program that I have my kids go on sometime, and it's about note reading, and they go on and they do that, and I can monitor them, and I only allow them on that website because of the software that we have. But and it's easier for me to, instead of sitting there cutting out flashcards for the kids, and it's much more fun for them to have to earn an orange belt or a black belt in note reading. So I think there can be a time and a place, but I use that like 4 times a year. You know, that's not what we do most of the time in my classroom. So it's that, you know, that balance of where it is important and what you need. So, all right, there's no more comments.
So direction from the board, what I'm gathering is that we take some of this feedback, we start to gather data the best that we possibly can over the next couple of months, and we develop some additional data points that we can bring back to the board so that you can consider those as we talk about changing the policy. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, and I believe, as we chatted with Trinda, I think she's planning on, this is District Community Council as well.
Yeah.
So we'll get some good feedback.
Very good.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. All right, let's go ahead and move on. We've got Article 5A6, Guardians in School. This is a short policy.
Great. So we're ready for me just to keep going.
Yep.
Excellent. So Guardians in Schools, we heard well, maybe I can't say that. We know a fair amount about Guardians in Schools now, which is a good thing. This policy was necessitated by state law, by HB 84 from last year and then HB 40 this year. The law requires that armed volunteers, guardians be present in district schools. Volunteers may be district employees, but they're not primarily located in a classroom. So this policy now provides us essentially an outline of what the Guardian program is, and Administrative Memorandum number 150 will provide procedures as to how we select, train, and maintain those guardians in schools. So if you have any further questions about that particular policy, I am happy to discuss it further.
The only question I had was that you said that and I'm assuming we're just not going to add it into the policy, but that there was the exception made that if we had a school less than 350,
Oh, correct.
Does that need to be in the policy?
I think it does, actually.
Yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It does. You do have a line that says unless an exception applies.
I just didn't know if it needed to be spelled out due to the state statute.
That makes sense. There is an additional exception that we can petition and say, hey, we can't find anybody else. Will you allow us even though we're bigger than 350? So there might be that exception too.
Okay.
We probably need to add some verbiage
Some
there.
verbiage, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll work on that for next go around.
Aside from that, were there any other questions?
We're very grateful for that, by the way, that provision.
Yeah.
We have about 20 schools that are under 350.
It really helps, actually, yeah.
Accept a motion?
I will accept a motion.
I move that we.
Sorry, Todd.
Go ahead, Todd.
Doug?
Yes, sir.
Knowing that the definition for a school guardian now includes principal, does that affect
excellent.
B2 in how we're defining a school district employee?
So the principal only if it is less than 350 though, right?
Correct.
Unless we apply for an exception.
That's why I wondered does it have to be spelled out there, or does that fall under the unless an exception applies?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let me let me think through that a little bit more. I'll bring you a resolution to that.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay, go ahead, Julie.
Well, I think I want to just move that we move on and wait until we get a revised copy of this to do a first reading. Is there a reason for us to need to pass a first reading today?
Is there a deadline
Is there a
on this,
reason
Doug?
not to? Because first reading is just the first draft.
I guess it just feels like there's a lot of changes.
I think the only
Trying to be
change is
fair.
just that one, that 350.
Yeah, I think that's the only change.
Okay, well, I will move that we approve 5A6, Guardians in Schools, as a first reading.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve 5A6, Guardians in Schools, as a first reading. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great.
Great.
Superintendent, as we actually pass this and put this into effect, I've had a lot of community members ask me how we're going to handle this, and as it is very confidential, so you can't really say, I would appreciate some good messaging about it once it's passed and going to be in effect, which I guess would be this fall, right? So, just mentioning that.
Since Doug is here, do you mind, Craig, if we wait? Okay. Let's skip over to Article 8B9, prohibitions of bullying, cyberbullying, and hazing, and retaliation.
Yep, thank you. So this is, comes before the board on a second reading. This policy was updated to include a definition of a bullying action plan. So fortunately, we got our bullying definition passed in state statute. It's a somewhat more restrictive definition, which will help us in the process of determining whether or not we need to do a bullying plan each time a student is investigated for that. This change arises out of that new legislation. Action plans will include directions for reporting bullying, responding to the student who caused the incident, the student affected by the incident, and the parents of both parties. So this policy also has a memorandum that outlines the procedures for its implementation. And so with that, I'd be happy to answer any further questions on Article 8B9.
Do we have any questions? If not, I will entertain a motion.
I move that we approve 8B9, prohibition of bullying, cyberbullying, for a second and final.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve 8B9, prohibition of bullying and cyberbullying, as a second and final reading. Are there any further comments? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. Motion carries. Skip to Article 9A1B, drugs, alcohol, and tobacco.
9A1B, we had a fairly robust conversation about this in the last board meeting. You'll recall that we included in this policy some additional language surrounding particularly the use of marijuana and the medical marijuana statute in the state of Utah. And we included a definition of misuse so that we would be able to continue to monitor and discipline for misuse of any prescribed drugs, even if it's medical marijuana or any other prescribed drug. So that's how we've handled it. We took out the testing portion, you'll recall, and put that into our procedural, our procedures in the administrative memorandum. That's basically that whole second half of the policies you can see there. If there's any other questions about 9A1B, I'd be happy to respond.
I was just going to make the motion. Go ahead. I move that we approve as the second and final reading Article 9A1B, drugs, alcohol, and tobacco.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to approve Article 9A1B, drugs, alcohol, and tobacco, as a second and final reading. Is there any further comment? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Let's go ahead and do Article 9A4C.
Okay, 9A4C. This is our, this is a fairly critical policy. This is Corrective action, progressive discipline, and orderly termination of employees. You'll recall from our conversation last month that we added to this policy a provision that we can extend provisional status of an employee for 2 additional years, 1 year at a time, if there is sufficient cause to do so. And so that is under section G5, if you want to take a look at it. That's the section that we added. There was a couple of other items that we cleaned up, but otherwise, that was the bulk or the substance of the change to that policy. And I'd be happy to answer any questions about Article 9A4C if you have them.
Are there any questions? If not, I will entertain a motion.
I move that we approve as a second and final reading Article 9A4C, corrective action and progressive discipline policy.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to approve Article 9A4C, corrective action, progressive discipline, and orderly termination as a second and final reading. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries.
Great.
We're going to jump back up real fast to the fiscal policy manual update. That is Todd.
Just a reminder on that one, we had a federal monitoring visit, and they praised our process and the procedures that we have in place, but they said that our policy did not have all of the pieces in place that are required under federal code. So we're just putting in the language necessary.
So if there's no questions, I'll entertain a motion. This would be the approval of the fiscal policy update as a second and final reading.
I move we accept the fiscal policy manual update as a second and final reading.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the fiscal policy manual update as a second and final reading. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Now, Mr. Stoffer.
Thank you, board members.
Thanks. Thanks, Mr. Larson.
Sorry, Craig. Good evening. I'm disappointed that there's only just a few people in the audience. I know that what I present is very exciting to everyone. So
I'm sure we have lots online.
So I am here to present to you the second reading of our maximum fee schedule. Oh, do I have to go like that? There we go. These are just some of the objectives of the presentation. I want to do a quick review of the fee law, give you a revised copy to go over, highlight some of the major changes. I want to make sure that you know that there are some small adjustments that were made that I won't go into detail especially some of the adjustments in grammar. And then if there's any questions any time during or at the end of the discussion, please let me know. A quick review is the fee law itself for beginning 2025 does not allow an LEA to charge for a non-fee course, which is defined, the 5 areas. We cannot charge a general basic fee. We cannot charge for textbooks, school equipment, and then the definition of common educational expenses. And then we can charge for a fee course and a non-fee course. I highlighted here that the items are built into our class fee. So when we list each of the class fees, these items are built in, which are instructional equipment that we can charge for, along with school activity clothing, and the definitions are there. The school can charge for a fee course and a non-fee course. These are itemized separately within the maximum fee schedule. Field trips will be separate. Discretionary projects that would be in lieu of the regular classroom projects, and then credit recovery, a competency remediation program. And then schools can charge for a fee course. These items are built in, which are the instructional supplies, the life cycle replacement costs, and the licensing fee for intellectual property. So those are all built in to our class course schedules. And then these are listed separately that can be charged for a fee course, which are the musical instrument rentals and their participation in driver's education. Within the law, it also says that a school or LEA can charge for either credit, exam, textbook, or tuition for our AP, IB, and concurrent classes, and we can also charge normally for anything that has to do with extracurricular activities, including that life cycle replacement cost. Want to remind you also that elementaries can ask for a suggested list of supplies, but we do need to include this notice when we send that home that's listed on the slide. So that was a quick review. I would like to now, if you can help me, move from the presentation to the actual fee schedules. It will be a little bit more timely to be able to go over those, and then that might be where you have some of the questions. So first we'll bring up the high school fee schedule. It's going to take maybe just a second to come up. And if we can expand that perfectly. So to share with you a few of the changes on the first page, there were no changes there. We have each of those listed. On the second page of the high school schedule, within the overnight travel, student travel, there was an adjustment made within approved geographic region, and we listed the policy. We felt that it was more important to do that than to list the actual states, so that if that policy ever changes, the fee schedule won't have to be shared 2 times at 2 different meetings. So that was adjusted. And then with credit recovery, that of $45, that's midway down the page 2. This is the only place that will be listed, because based on the law, we had it listed as a course class or a course charge as well. But with what you can charge for a fee course, there was very few things that could fall underneath there. So we've listed it just in extracurricular for that credit recovery. On page 3, there are a few changes. The first thing that I want to mention is that we removed music performing group. We did that because we placed all of our performing groups in the extracurricular portion only. One thing that we noticed and we got feedback is that having it both as a performing group fee and a class fee became a little bit confusing for parents, because where will I be charged, and could I possibly be charged for both? And we had within the policy that students could not be charged for both, but it still was a little confusing. And after meeting with each of the band leaders at the high school level, they all agreed that all of them perform at the high school level. At the junior high level, I'll explain that change a little bit different, but we are going to only place them here, and there won't be a class fee except for guitar and piano. I also wanted to list that we did increase the instrument rental charge. Thanks to some help from some of the teachers, we were able to identify what each of the other districts charge, also what it costs to rent an instrument monthly, and we fit well within the parameters of comparison to our sister districts, and way cheaper than it would be to rent an instrument monthly if you were to do that on your own. So that will be increased to $150. Again, this is a maximum, and so communities, schools can choose to charge that maximum or what they feel is appropriate for their community. And then the second instrument would be $25.
I had a question on the piano one. I don't know what fee schedule it's on because I'm a little lost, but it said piano 150. Do people rent pianos? I understand, like, I'm trying to figure out how that would work, because obviously any instrument is most instruments the kids carry with them, right? They're renting it, they're taking it to school with them, they're taking it home, or maybe they're leaving it at school, whatever. And then I saw the piano on the fee schedule, and I was really trying to wrap my mind around that. Can anybody speak to that?
I think there's some, what I'm thinking in particular, that if they wanted to, they could rent a piano and take it home and leave it at home and practice, like just a keyboard piano. So it's not a...
Well, obviously, it's not like an upright, but her grand piano. So more like a keyboard that's potentially portable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what my guess.
And rent it from the school or rent it, okay.
From the school, yeah.
Yeah, and it still would be, this would be a rental from the school at this point, which if we had to, if we had multiple, we would have to rent from.
And then there would just be a
Music.
different piano at the school, hopefully this.
Yeah, like I rent my kids who play bass, I rent them one to take home, and then they have one at school.
So they're not
use,
going back
so that
and
they're
forth.
not yeah, because that's a burden to carry.
That just, that one caught my eye.
That's a great question. Other questions there? Looking down along that same page, we do have club officers, peer leadership team, student body officers, and class officers, and we felt it was more appropriate to separate them into 3 lines so that they could be more specific with the totals, because our student body officers and class officers usually have a class and do quite a bit more with dances and other events that they put on, and so that amount was $500 and separated that with club officers versus peer leadership team. So theirs would be less. And then going down all the way to course fees would be the next change from what you previewed. It's still on this same page though, maybe. Yeah, page, there you go, thank you. We re-alphabetized everything. After we made some adjustments, I mentioned that in CTE there were many classes that allowed students to earn credit towards graduation in the non-fee courses, and we needed to remove those, and they were on the list before. And so after doing that, and then also changing art to visual arts to give a better definition, we reorganized those. So you're going to see CTE first rather than art, which was first before. And then moving on, we received some feedback on page 4. Child development, we increased that fee slightly from 20 to 25. Construction, which is our construction classes here, the GTI, that was a slight increase as well based on some feedback from the teachers. And then food and nutrition, we had the title there, Foods 1 and 2, and that was not consistent with what we have for course codes, so we made that adjustment. Nothing on page 5. On page 6, there was competitive athletics that was a course fee, and after speaking with Aaron Whitehead along with some other coaches, there is not normally a class fee that's charged. We had listed with this that if they were going to charge a class fee, they wouldn't be able to charge a team fee if it was associated with the team, and it seemed more appropriate to just charge them for being a part of the team. So we removed that fee as a class fee. So there wouldn't be anything there. We added the word aquatic aerobics rather than just aquatics to make sure we defined that that was an aerobics class. Karen has already mentioned the $150 for piano and then for guitar. And again, this is just a maximum. We can make those adjustments if we need, if you feel it'd be more appropriate to reduce that, but this is a maximum and that each school can charge what they feel is appropriate for their community. On page 7, there is, on the second line, AP Studio Art, which includes 3D and 2D. We had missed that class. We had it down at the bottom with 3D, but we missed the AP portion, and so after talking to our director, or I mean our teacher specialist, they asked us to change that to include both 2D and 3D in AP, and it added it, or increased it to 55 instead of 50. No questions there.
There's a spelling error on there, but I'll point it out to you later.
Okay, good. Thank you. Down at the very bottom, we used to have under, and it would potentially fall on the other page, we used to have field trips and instructional equipment listed under specific item courses. We removed those because of duplicates, and they fall just within the extracurricular or the top portion of this. And so they were both removed under specific item course fees. So that is all the adjustments for high school. Are there any questions with that one?
Do you have to give all the students these 7 pages? Or do you print them or just have them online?
Yeah, we have everything online. It will go out with registration material, and when students and parents look at what they're going to register, they'll have not all schools offer all classes, and so this is just for the district, and it will be posted online for parents to preview, and then schools will individually complete spend plans that are specific to their school and the courses that they offer or the extracurricular activities.
I was going to say, you can see them on our homepage right now too, in this form.
Craig, did you see these two emails that we got from a patron earlier today? I forwarded them to you right before board meeting, but
I did, and a couple of them I've answered. So one of the questions was...
I thought I was hearing, but I was like, hey, was there something missed in there?
Yeah, so ultimately, we tried to eliminate any duplicates for one, because that was confusing. In those duplicates, it did often say that if you're charged for a course fee, you couldn't be charged for a performing group or vice versa. And so what we did is eliminated them so that they weren't in both areas. That was competitive athletics and then the musical piece with the band, orchestra, and choir. So those two were eliminated, so I think that answered her question there.
And that's not a change that you made since the first reading?
It actually is. It was an adjustment based on feedback, but it was something that we had already changed prior to receiving those emails.
Okay.
So, yeah. So I guess I should.
What about the per night maximum on overnight travel?
So
I'm not sure that I support
that one,
but-
yeah, that one has not been addressed, and that would be a question for the board to discuss, because what we offer is a maximum of what we allow them to be able to spend for an overnight trip, and then it would be difficult. What the question was, I should repeat the question. The question was, could we charge or create a maximum per night for overnight trips? And so the example would be maybe $200 per night, and then however many nights they go could go up to a total of $1,700. The difficulty with that would be that means we're identifying or defining what they do on tour, because there are going to be some days that they go to Disneyland and some days that they perform and don't go to a different activity. And so that would just be very difficult to do versus allowing them to do it within a maximum. She did share an example of some of our athletic groups that go on maybe a 2-night trip or a 1-night trip. And I did come up with a couple of examples looking at that, and most of them charge under the $200 per day when they do a 2-night or a 3-night trip. So, or maybe just slightly over. So we are pretty close to what her suggestion was. I just feel like I don't know if that's something that the board really wants to get into the weeds to make a decision on.
To me, it's really hard, and I appreciate that she looked at that, but it depends where you go.
Yeah,
you know, if you have.
It's limiting.
It's very limiting, and I mean, a hotel in Los Angeles is going to be more expensive than a hotel in St. George, or I mean, you're going to have a hard time evening that out over the time, and I think it is just let's put a maximum on it, and hopefully our coaches and our teachers use their best judgment, and also they use the travel. We go through the district for the travel, so they try their very best to keep the cost where it needs to be.
And our process is for them to make the request through their administrator, their principal, who then sends it to us as the directors, and we preview it, and then it goes to accounting looks at it as well, and then it's ultimately assigned by the assistant superintendent and the superintendent. So we have several checks to ensure that they are doing things appropriately and what would be best for kids in that activity.
And then you may have addressed this. I got a kid who I'm trying to help via text while I'm also doing this, so maybe I missed it, but the Chromebook fines and the depreciation value question, can we make it so that she was looking at if you have a 5-year-old Chromebook, that the fee for fixing it should be different than if it's a brand new one, or the replacement fee should be different, and can we look at that? And also the idea that these are maximum non-waivable charges and fines. On this page, it doesn't say that their maximum. It does say that on the other ones. She says, I didn't look to see. But maybe we want to make sure to put that these are the maximum fines, not just the fines.
Yes, and do you want me to jump to that one before I go over the changes
The
on the
fines are on
junior
a
high?
different page, right?
Yeah.
So let's wait till
Should we
we
go
get
to
to
the
that.
junior
Is that
high, and then
okay?
I can maybe try to address that a little bit
Sorry,
better?
I'm just like going
You're-
through.
you're
issues.
awesome.
Right,
That's
a
great.
different page. You're totally right.
I'm
Are there
gonna,
any questions
share
on the
with-
high schools? You guys, everybody good on the high schools? Yeah. Okay, let's move on to junior high then.
The junior high is a little bit smaller. We just have 3 pages on the junior high schedule, and there are just a few changes from the last presentation. The same change on the overnight travel was listed with it listing the actual article and district policy on that. We did remove college readiness, was removed under extracurricular because that is something that's required for graduation. And then we added school year versus summer when it came to the Granite Junior Youth Symphony and the summer Bach. We also separated our class officers or our club officers with student government so that that was more specific with the amounts, $275 with student government and $125 with club officers. The music performing groups was removed from performing groups under extracurricular, and it was added into course fees. And I was able to speak to 4 different teachers, and they mentioned that they do, of course, perform, but it's not quite at the same level as the high school, and they have a lot of beginning classes, so it would be appropriate for them to be able to charge at the class level. And when I get to that point, I'll explain a little bit of a change there. Page 2, under course fees, visual arts, we have added Art Foundation 1 and 2D. Because I didn't research well enough all of the different art courses, I had teachers that shared that there was a lot of classes missing and that there were classes that that we hadn't described, and I have to share, and when we present and share with the bookkeepers, we will make sure that we let the bookkeepers know and the principals, so when they teach their teachers that these courses, we couldn't include every course that was available on the course catalog. If we were to do that, it would be way more than the 9 pages at high school and the 3 pages at the junior high. So we put in general categories. Art Foundations is one of them that would include multiple courses. Foods is a great example at the high school level that includes multiple courses, and ceramics. So we'll do the explanation of that, but it did make it so that we removed both ceramics and photo and film because they all fall under Art Foundation with course numbers. And then on page 3, where we get to performing arts and course fees, the request to increase instrument rental was a little bit less there. It's a $100 maximum under class fee, and then we increased the actual amount that they could charge for the class from $25 to $50. We did that same thing for vocal music, and then with piano and I think it's just piano, and then instrumental music. So guitar, piano, and instrumental music, we still have that at $100 for the rental. So that was the adjustment there. And that is all the changes on the junior high. Is there any questions with the junior high schedule?
Nope, that's good.
Okay, we'll move on. There was no changes from the last time with elementary. And so that, if that's okay, I'm just going to skip over that and go to our non-waivable fees, fines.
I have a quick question on elementary, though.
Okay.
I think it was mine's slow coming up here. On the maximum cap fee, the 500, if there's multiple, like, sometimes they do 2 things during the year, not just one time during the year. Is this for the whole year, right? This is including, like, if they do a STEM club, but then they do something in the fall and the spring, it would be, the one charge would be for the whole year, right? I'm just making sure that's
So
not
yes.
per activity if they do 2 different clubs or whatever, so.
Correct, and
for
that
the
maximum
same-
of $500 means
Okay.
that, let's say they participate in 3 or 4 of these.
Right.
If that ends up being above the $500 limit, the maximum they would have to pay is $500.
But if they do like STEM club, let's say they do a fall and then other students do it in this, or they want to I know schools that sometimes do 2 sections of things. Do you know what I'm talking about? So like they'll have maybe a club in the fall that does it, and then in the spring, they can't charge 50 each time, correct? Even if it's under the 500, or can they do that per student? I'm just wondering, I know we have some kids that participate in the spring or fall or both for some activities.
In this particular case, the way that we have it outlined, it would be for the year.
The year.
On the high school, we have them per semester
Per
in the
semester.
junior high.
But elementary is not the same way, even
Correct.
if they do it. Okay.
And I think that that's a good point to put in, is to make sure we put that within the explanation that all extracurricular activities occur before or after school, and I could include that this is one price for the year.
For the year.
So I'll add that in. That's a good suggestion.
So per Julie's question that she had before, and I'm not sure because you talked to her and I don't know where it ended up, but you do have it listed on the junior high and the high school where it says school-sponsored admission fees and fundraiser, but we don't have that for the elementary. Can you just clarify, was that in regard to a fee or an admission? And why do we not have it listed on the elementary, but we have it listed on the junior high and high school?
And Julie and I did have a conversation about it, and what our schedule lists is what we are charging students, not necessarily parents. And so on the junior high and the high school schedule, to go and view a play, a school could charge up to that $10. At the elementary, we normally have an elementary assembly, if you will, and they get to watch the musical during the school day, which we couldn't charge anyway. And then in the evening, there's a couple of ways that they can charge, because we don't have we don't set as a board what we can charge maximum for parents necessarily. But we can definitely do that if that's a discussion that you would like to have. And so based on that, we would let the community decide whether they feel it would be appropriate to charge or not to charge. There's an option for them to go through their PTAs, a fundraiser, that type of thing as well. Okay. Is there any appetite to add that then to the fee schedule for elementary?
I don't know if anybody's elementaries charge fees. I'm not aware of any of mine, but that's why I questioned.
Sure.
I, after talking with Craig, I kind of said to myself, you know what, I've never heard anybody upset about what we're doing. I'd rather just not be prescriptive and continue to just trust our principals. We don't have to line this out, so I just won't worry about it. I had never had a complaint. I was just noticing its absence, so
okay,
I dropped it.
Okay.
I actually do have a question that came up at Hunter High now that I'm thinking about it. The principal mentioned that they might have to charge for students, normally their activity card, their school ID card, whatever, would get them into games. And now, because we don't have that initial cost, like that's kind of gone, that they might have to pay to get in games now. That's part of, because it's after school and it's not during school. Do we have any guidance on that?
Yes. So part of the basic registration, if you will, was to help allow for then students to go to region games or other activities, but yet they still paid for dances, they still paid to go see plays, that type of thing. And so rather than, based on the fee law, we wouldn't be able to charge that. And also based on that law, you have some kids who don't go to the game, yet they all paid that basic registration fee. So the appropriate way would be to just charge the students as they came. And so it would take place. They would have to pay for them now. And if they went to multiple games, it could end up being a little bit more, I guess, than what the basic registration fee is. Most likely, they would go to the number of games that they'd want to go to, and it might end up being less.
Okay.
Yeah, good question.
So that's for all of our high schools. So now high school students going to the football game will pay, regardless home, okay.
Yeah, normally.
I'm just sitting here thinking about the families who.
Normally they could get in.
Normally they just get in on their ID card, and that's.
But now that they probably will be charged.
The idea is that they can charge.
Yeah.
And it'll be now up to the principal to decide, hey, are we charging for
Okay,
this
that
game
was
or
going to be
not?
my follow-up question is there a set amount through all high schools, or does this literally come down to each individual high school? Because I can see students getting confused. That hence my question is, am I gonna pay today or am I not gonna pay today? Do I need to buy my ticket in advance? Those things.
That's a great question. So regions set up, and we have within the fee policy that says that we would charge what the regions make as a rule. So the regions, each region sets up a rule. They are pretty close to each other, and they would set up the maximum amount that you could charge students. Currently, our current practice this year, for example, would be that non-region games, I would go and I would pay to go watch that football game. And then region games were covered under that activity fee, if you will. And then when I go to an away school, I have to pay no matter what. That's our current practice. In this situation, now they wouldn't have to pay. Remember, now I don't have to pay a $65 basic registration fee. If I go watch 5 games at $5 a piece, I'm getting off a little bit cheaper. So that's the way I like to think of it.
So the $65, the problem with this, I'm looking at it from a 16, 17-year, point of view is the $65, the most likely the family's writing the check and then they're paying for their game out of their own wallet. So maybe that's just me, but I'm thinking, oh, that's actually a little bit more of a hit on the kids, but I guess we just have to follow the law.
The parents talking at the community council meeting were saying, wow, this could get really expensive if your kid really wants to go support the school and go to like all the basketball games, for example, because there's more basketball than football games that could get really expensive. So we did talk about how that might really affect those kids. Yeah.
I don't love this.
You do love it?
I do not. In an era where we need more school spirit, more community, that to me this feels like a disincentive in some instances of, oh man, I gotta pay out of pocket for a home game that historically has been able, that one has been able to gain entry with their student ID.
So there are districts who have created an athletic fee, and if they pay that, they can then go into whatever games they're going to go into for the year. So they figured out what the price is. The challenge that we're trying to overcome, though, is a general fee. Like we charge everybody $65, whether they go or no. That's what we have to stop the practice of. But it doesn't stop the idea of, hey, we have an athletic card. It costs, give it a price, $60. And if you want to go to games, you can buy a card, and you go to as many as you want, but you've got it, and as opposed to shelling out something every game you go to. So there are ways to navigate through this general fee world and get something more specific for admissions.
I hear you, Todd, and that makes sense. It's a little bit disheartening to see that we're structuring it this way. Have attended high school athletic events all across the Wasatch Front, and it's not unique to our school district, but attendance at those events is down, not up. And I think that's something that's missing from our communities, is that kind of school spirit. We need more of it, not less, and that's, I repeat my previous comment. I worry that this is a disincentive. Even if you can go buy an athletic pass, I get it. It just doesn't feel like the right move from a community and school spirit standpoint.
I don't know that it's our choice though, because this is part of the law. We can't charge
I hear you.
that.
I hear you.
So do you want to have it? Do we want to have that added on because we would have to list it on the fee schedule right now, right?
So the activity fee that Todd is talking about, is that the question, or?
Yeah, to get an activity fee or an activity card to allow you into any game, would we have to put it on this?
Right now, we currently have that we follow Utah High School Activity Association's guidelines, which is set by the region. They do not have, they allow any school to come up with their own season pass, if you will.
They don't allow that?
They allow that. So
they
they
do.
allow schools or districts to decide what that would be. So we could do that, but that is another discussion that needs to take place, is what would be appropriate to cover the
Well, that's why
cost.
I'm wondering, does it have to be listed on here, or because it is that stipulation, can it just be a school can decide to do that on their own, even if it's not on here.
My experience is when you create that season pass, it's cheaper than if you charged all of the games.
Sure.
And so I can conceive that you don't need it because you're already saying, hey, this is a maximum $8 per game, and we are only going to charge a portion of that. On the flip side, to Clark's point, schools can still just decide we're not charging kids to come to these games. We'll just let them in. It just is. They
Then
gotta
you got to make up. You got to make up the revenue somewhere. To Todd's point, it's a little bit of a revenue issue. But I also kind of wonder, Todd, maybe, and I don't want to belabor this too much longer, but how much revenue are we talking about? If you can boil it down to either across the board for the district or for an individual high school, given that, to my point, there's
We've got two high school
the
principals.
The attendance from the away fans is not significant. It's the parents principally that are paying, and some students, a few. And so historically, that revenue has been from visiting fans that comes into revenue generating sporting events. From a student standpoint, I wonder, how much revenue are we really talking about? Is it really tough for the principals to make that up through some other means? What can we do that's creative?
It was Jen Johnson who told me the price to run the football game was around $2,000. So I think they're just trying to capture that cost so they can actually, break even.
You gotta cover costs.
Cover costs. Mm-hmm.
You have to comply with Title IX, which means if we're going to charge for a boys basketball game, we got to charge for a girls basketball game, even though it costs more money to charge, because you have to have all the people to make sure you could charge, and you don't get enough money to even cover their fees. But you got to charge to keep it equal. And then you hope that the basketball season or the football season makes you enough money that you can spread that out across everybody in the whole sporting world. So you do end up, you make money on football. You maybe make a little bit of money on basketball, but probably not. And we live or die by that football gate. And it's tens of thousands of dollars over the year.
So if you don't have this $65 fee, that's the question. Is that critical in making that money, or is it just the gate fees that you're making?
I'm just talking about gate.
So that
gate is in addition to that fee, and you have to have that.
In addition to the fee, so it is.
And historically, that gate has not included revenue from your home students.
Except for preseason.
Except for preseason or these endowment games.
Yeah, and to your point there, the amount of money from students isn't that much money. It really isn't. In the big scheme of things, it's not.
Yeah, I feel like we're being perhaps penny wise and pound foolish on this personally, but I realize every dollar counts at the same time, but I'm very concerned about the message that it sends to school spirit and community-wide kind of, we want our schools to be the centerpiece of our communities. And we want our students who attend that high school to come to every game. And it just feels like a big disincentive to do that. I get it. We can talk about how it washes out, but to a student, the extra $6 or $8 or whatever it's going to be that they could go spend at In-N-Out instead and eat and not go to the game, I think would be an unfortunate byproduct.
So I'm going to try to answer your question first. When I look at the fee schedule on page 2, we have the Utah High School admissions activity sponsored by Utah High School Activities Association may not exceed limits established by the association. We could add in there that we can create an activity pass that would be less than the cost of charging to go to each game. That would be an option that would take care of that for us. The other option could be that we put in there that we will not charge for home games, and then we would have to either require the school to come up with a way to fundraise for that money, or we would ask the board to help support and give them more funds to cover that. That would be our two choices.
I would very much be in favor of that scenario, and one potential proposal would be make the cost for an adult or a parent a little bit more, so that the kids can benefit from that and have no charge for home games. That's my
Can we
feeling.
even charge more for parents according to the rule, though?
We can only charge what they allow, the maximum amount, which, which is usually around $10. So I don't know if we could charge potentially more. Granite School District has known to charge less than other districts based on because the region is established by the majority of Granite School District schools. So if you go to an Alpine school or Davis school, they might charge more, but we still could only charge the maximum that Utah High School allows.
Which is what amount? Is that specified?
They said they're going up to $13, $8 for students, $13 for adults.
Yeah, that's the current recommendation for Utah High School.
Right. I don't think we've been charging 13 in the past for adults. That's obviously that's an increase, but
yeah,
that was in the email that I forwarded you.
yeah, exactly.
So any thoughts? Do we want to add that in? Is it just, let's leave it how it is? What would you like?
I'm advocating that we make it so that we do not charge students for home games. So
Does that have to be in our fee schedule, Todd? Then I say we can just leave, I was just bringing it up as.
So having a non-fee isn't necessary on the fee schedule. It would
Right.
be communication to our high school principals as to what our practice is.
Yeah.
But if you did like an activity card, that would have to go on the fee schedule because it has to be on the fee schedule so that people who are on fee waiver could also have access to that card. So that's where the difference is.
So that's also the maximum amount you could charge. So a school could choose not to charge an individual school, or we could send I guess we could take it off so they don't have the option, right? And then the other thing I was going to say is then that opens up to me, what about performances? Like performing arts. I mean, at what point do we want to draw the line on charging?
Usually I don't know, most of the performances,
Can students get in free with their
not usually
card? Yeah, I'm saying if they get into games.
It depends. Like I'm thinking Granger High's choir concert, band and orchestra. I went to theirs just a couple weeks ago. Those are free, but obviously the musicals, plays, things like that. And I think a little bit of that is supply and demand. So there's plenty of room in the football stadiums, and there's plenty of room on the basketball bleachers. I know in some of our auditoriums they sell out. So you open that up for students for free, and I think you're going to have some capacity issues.
You could still require a ticket, but it's a free ticket that you signed up for.
I'm just saying per your question, they don't generally, with that same activity, it doesn't include that admission. So Tyler, if we don't charge, because we're not charging that $65 fee, and we say you have to let your students in free, does that mean you're going to be short on money?
Mitch said it depends which area we're talking about. So, yeah, our football.
Overall.
Our football, we bring a lot of money there. Our theater, we bring quite a bit of money to support that. And the other areas, our basketball, but not even a ton of basketball. So, I think that is going to vary from school to school. We wouldn't feel the pinch a lot in basketball, we would in football.
I think
we're subsidizing mostly from that $65.
So if we just say flat out, you got to figure out how to do this, that would hurt our high schools. That would put them in a pinch. That's what I'm hearing. Is that?
if I can add, so there's another dimension to this. So we're talking about the fee schedule and the law that has disallowed certain fees to be collected. We've done the math calculations to determine what that impact is to the district, and last board meeting had a line item about $1.7 million. Like, that's the overall impact to the school district. And as we've been going through figuring out, well, how do we make that up? What are the sources? And we have some ideas there. But how do we get it to the schools? What we've noticed is that for the high schools at $65 and at the junior highs at $40, that adds up to about the 1.7 million that we're coming out short. So we could distribute to the schools the $65 that used to be collected in a fee as district support for both secondary schools. And so that might negate this whole conversation altogether, because if the district's going to provide the monies, you can now say, and school students go free, because they're not paying the 65. It's just coming from a district allocation. So you can get there that way if you're willing to adopt the other side of the story that's still coming, which is how do we balance the overall district budget? But we're building the proposal around that concept. We think we can replace those two with district dollars, and so a school would receive those monies and could probably conduct their business as they always have. It's just going to come from a district pot.
So if we do that, Todd, you're saying we would put that into our budget and then allocate it to the schools, and they would get it and say, this is replacing basically the $65 or $40 charge.
Correct. Yeah,
Okay.
that's how we would start to communicate it. Yeah.
So maybe leave it for this year and see how it goes, and let's, if it doesn't work, fix it next year. Okay. All right.
I do have one more thing that I need to share that will hopefully answer Julie's question, and that is the non-fee waivable fees. It must be done. Sorry. One of the questions that came up on this, there was no changes from the very first presentation last month. This is it. But the question was with Chromebooks, and we have just added this the last couple of years, and the reason that we added these amounts in specifically was schools were kind of just given to their own accord how they were going to end up charging for each of these things. And so Chris Larson and his division felt like it was important to share with schools, here is our itemized list for replacing things that are broken. And this would be just what it costs his department and or the school to replace a lost machine, because they're going to have to replace it no matter what. If the board would prefer that we do have some type of a scale that we would reduce that amount based on depreciation, he's very willing to sit down with me and we could add that into this list. It might be that it drops a certain percentage each year to try to put it on this form. So that is something that we could do, but currently these have actually gone down from last year, some of the prices, because some of those prices have gone down, and they're just replacement cost for each thing when we replace them. Is there a wish that we do create a depreciated scale? And that most likely would just be for the Chromebook replacement, the 300 and the 270 versus the other items.
The question that I had was, is this, and maybe this just solves it, is that it needs to say Chromebook touchscreen full replacement maximum $300.
Correct.
So if it says maximum on there, then that indicates, hey, if it's an older machine, you can prorate it or you can depreciate it. Does that solve the problem?
I would think so.
Yeah, that's what we're thinking, and so we would still leave this, but then I would work with Chris to create a depreciation scale that we would then send out with granitized, send out, this is what we follow as far as our depreciation scale, and give that to him. So that's something that we could definitely do if that's what you'd like.
So it doesn't necessarily need to be in here right now?
Correct,
If we
because this is just a maximum.
do we need to add the word maximum on there?
Yes, and I'll do that. That will be at the very top, just within the description at the top, we'll make sure that we add the word maximum.
Okay.
Does that help?
Yeah.
Okay, I believe that that's everything. The last few slides were just repeats of the explanation of asking the board to help support for the loss of revenue to the schools, along with the fact that next year we'll be looking at this all over again and coming up with new rules. We did come up with the idea of hopefully using online classes to potentially support the new law of having a free version. However, there is many discussion amongst the legislature and USBE as far as how that's going to look. So it would be inappropriate for us to come up with a solution now.
Okay. Any other questions?
So given the fact that we're going to make some changes, we can't do a final read on this today. Is that true?
Yeah, we could.
We
Because
could
if
do
the
a
only,
final read with the changes we discussed?
Yeah.
Okay, just making sure. As amended, thank you for the language. Okay, well, will you accept a motion?
I will accept a motion.
I move that we approve the 2025-2026 school fee schedules as amended for a second and final reading.
A second?
We have a motion and a second to approve the school fee schedule for 2025-2026 as a second and final reading as amended. Is there further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries.
Thank you. Good job, Craig.
Hey, I just want to say thank you personally. Thank you for going out and doing that research and making those changes.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it.
That was a heavy lift this year.
I regretfully have to say that unfortunately you won't get to listen to me.
I made sure to make up for all of that by running you around this time, okay?
We're going to bring you back on stipend just to do the fee schedule.
All right, we're going to move on to superintendent and board reports. Superintendent?
Given the lateness of the hour, I'm going to waive my report. I'll just send you a nice email.
Okay, Clark? Karen?
Just a quick benefits committee update. We're happy that it's a very small projected medical funding increase. We talked about that a little bit earlier this evening. They talked about many renewals, these are supplemental things like dental, life insurance, et cetera. The mammogram bus, this is the month, April. So if you are on Select Health, the mammogram bus will be here at the district. Yeah, here, right? April 15th, 16th, and 17th, and Blue Cross and Blue Shield will be the 15th and the 17th. So we hope to get a lot of people out. Preventative care is always the way to go. Speaking of preventative care, discussion on mental health and our update for 2024. I touched on this a little bit last month, but we're excited. We've had almost 25,000 mental health visits for the year of 2024. And just over 7,500 of those are virtual. And that was something that we've been talking about, being able to have access and kind of quicker access, convenient access, and then just over 17,000 in person, because just like physical health, mental health, if you can catch it on the preventative end, it's better for our employees in the long run, and it's also fiscally prudent for us to catch it on the front end because it's a lot less expensive medical-wise. So that's my report.
Karen, do you know they have something that goes out for the mammogram bus? Do they have to sign up or?
I think they have to sign up, and that there have been emails.
Is there? Okay.
Michelle? Yeah, it goes through the benefits. Yeah. Yeah, I was just going to say Burke probably will be the point person.
I checked on my email and I didn't see anything, so that's why I wanted to make sure the employees.
No, that's good to know because we'll follow up and make sure the emails are going out.
Okay, thanks. Chris?
I just have one thing, Region 5 PTA Awards Night for, it's here, April 14th at 6:30. Come if you can. We also had 5 that won at the state level, so we have a big group here that got awards from our region, and then 5 that will actually go on and they won at state level. So if you guys can attend that, it'd be great. It's right after spring break, the Monday after, so I'm telling you now, so we can't. And you should have all got an email about that. And then I just had I just want to quickly say, whoever did the Brockbank Junior High STEM mascot post today was the best thing ever, and my community loved it more than anything I've ever seen in the last several years. So we might be the Brockbank Brine Shrimp. So just so you know, I think it's so fitting for my community. But anyway, it was a great April Fool's, and or was it? And kudos to whoever did that, because my community just thought that was the best thing ever. And the comments, go read them tonight if you can't sleep, because sometimes after board member meetings you can't sleep. So they're the best. Thanks. I saw it on Facebook. Well, I got screenshots sent to me, so then I had to go check it out. So yeah, it was awesome.
Noted. Connie, do you have anything?
I don't have anything because you sent that information out from UHSAA, and just that it will be nice to do the go and learn for development for us at NSBA this week. So because
thanks, Connie. Kim?
Just that we did meet for Parks and Rec this month, my first time actually being on the board officially, so now, actually technically in that meeting I was approved to be on the board, so now I'm on the board. They have an interesting process whereby you actually have to be approved, even though you're signed, you've got to be approved to be on the board, so that finally happened. And just one of the big things they're doing right now is creating subcommittees to talk about things before the meeting, so I might be assigned to more committees and more meetings on that side. So that's about it for me.
Thanks, Kim. Julie?
We had a district community council meeting that was really great at Bonneville Junior High, in which we discussed the mission and vision and et cetera. And it was great. We got a lot of really great feedback, comments, questions from patrons. The evaluation committee will meet tomorrow, and our goal is that in the next few weeks you should be seeing an evaluation in your inbox for Mr. Business Administrator Todd Hauber, so we hope that you'll be paying attention to that. Oh, Connie, I guess actually, do you want to say anything about USBA? I was just going to say that, but we got our NSBA coming up this month, and then Connie and I are going to a 3-day retreat in St. George for USBA at the end of the month. So.
I had something, I can't remember now. So I guess it doesn't matter. Oh, that's what it is. Connie, Julie, I need to talk to you after. So please don't leave.
Sorry.
Really, it's Stacy that needs to talk to you. So come see me. Okay. Yes, graduation schedule is out, so we need to just make sure that you guys know and have approved. So that's it. All right, having met the end of our agenda, I will go ahead and adjourn.